My name is Max Shelkoff. I am a senior mobile solutions consultant with Engage by Cell. Majority of my day-to-day is working with folks like yourselves that are involved in workforce development in one way or the other, right? There's a lot of different organizations and boards and operators that assist people in all the multifaceted levels of workforce development, right? And I am joined today by Melanie Moffett. You want to give yourself a quick little introduction, Melanie?
Absolutely. So welcome everybody. I'm Melanie Moffett. I am with Equus Workforce Solutions, and I also run in the project director here at Monmouth One Stop in Monmouth County, New Jersey. And I'm happy to be here with you all.
I'm very happy you're here too, Melanie, because we're going to talk about an awesome, I'm going to call you a success story, Melanie, because it was so successful when you launched your platforms that we needed to tell people about it. And that's why we're here today.
That's great. I'll take that.
All right, fantastic. So, a little bit about Engage by Cell. We've been in business for, I think it's over 17 years now. So, we're coming up on 20 years, I think. And we have built platforms that are entirely mobile device based, right? And we specialize in all kinds of mobile device based engagement and a lot of different tools, but we're going to talk about a couple of them today and how Melanie and her team over at Monmouth County have deployed them and all the successful things that have accompanied that deployment. And you'll see on there a couple of examples. Behind the scenes, I have Anna running the slides for me today. So if you hear me calling out to Anna for next slide, I promise we're not crazy. Anna is here. She just goes in dark mode and hides and does slides for me. So a little bit about why mobile, right? So mobile device engagement is very important in today's industry because I'm sure everybody sitting on this call right now has this sitting within a couple inches of them, right? Melanie, I'm sure yours is right there. Everybody's cell phone is either in their pocket, in their hand, on their desk. It's always attached to us at this point, right? So why mobile is so powerful is because it's fully integrated into our day-to-day lives for the most part anymore, right? And some of the kind of key factors and key tools that we help provide in the workforce development industry is collecting forms and providing text message-based communications, and people can submit documentation, and we all know all the little different touch points in the process for when someone starts seeking services in workforce development. You have to keep them engaged throughout a long process sometimes, right? And so enabling them to incorporate their mobile devices into that process can help streamline. And the key word that I keep hearing over and over and over is digitization, right? So everybody's under that initiative of how do we get more digital? How do we include and incorporate our mobile devices into this process? And that's what we're going to cover a little bit today. Next slide, pretty please, Anna. All right, so what technology are we going to talk about? So the two tools in the tool bag that we're going to talk about today is the text messaging platform and the mobile web app platform. And I'll go into them in a little more detail, but overall, the text messaging and the mobile web app really help address two main challenges, right? So engagement being the first one. So if the only tools you are currently deploying for engagement is email, oftentimes, right? And trying to pick up the phone and call. Email, as we all know, isn't as effective nearly as it once was, right? If you're getting, especially from like a blanket outreach term, if you're getting 20% open rates, you're knocking it out of the park. And that's just not the kind of numbers we need to see. And if you're having to make 100 phone calls a day, follow up, case management, community outreach, it's super labor intensive, right? I mean, nobody likes making 100 phone calls a day. And so we built a text messaging platform kind of around those needs that we'll go into in more detail. So the first challenge is that engagement piece. The next piece is the information accessibility, right? So every single workforce development organization, whether you're at a board or working with a board or you're in some veteran affairs or, whatever kind of program you're helping run, you have a ton of different resources available to you or available to the public that you're providing. And those resources might be on this website. They might be on this website. It might be on paper at the Career Job Center still. It might be in Melanie's head. She has an awesome idea and a new partnership, and she needs to get it digital as quickly as possible and disseminate it out to the people who need it. That's where the mobile web app comes in. So it can become kind of a centralized hub for all of those different resources that are available to the public. Okay. So let's dive in a little more detail here. So next slide, text messaging. So right down there in the bottom right-hand corner, if everybody wants to take out their cell phones, pretty please, and I'll do it with you, and scan that QR code, it will actually populate a text message into your text messaging app that says Demo Monmouth to the phone number 56512. And if you hit send for me, you should receive a text message back. And in that text message, this is serving a couple purposes. So one, we're opting in because we're going to push out a couple of example text messages during this presentation to kind of keep everybody on pace with what some examples of real life use cases are. But in the little text bubbles you'll see above that QR code are some real actual examples of the kind of messaging that Melanie and her team are sending out. Let's talk a little bit of data too. So as I mentioned, email, right? If email is your primary means of doing large outreach initiatives, the kind of data behind text messaging is you're going to see a 98% open rate on text messages, right? So it's much more likely that that individual is going to open and read that text message, but it's not also going to happen much quicker, right? So email gets reserved for the end of the day, or if I get a phone call and everybody has caller ID anymore and I'll get a voicemail, I might listen to it at the end of the day, etc. So you're much more likely to get that messaging in that person's hand, and they're much more likely to consume it within a couple of minutes, right? So it's all about speed and efficiency and effectiveness. Another huge advantage with texting, you can be much more targeted and efficient with your outreach. As Melanie knows, you can have a lot of different lists because we're serving a lot of different people with different needs, right? So you can have your list of job seekers or break down your industry. You can have your list of people who are looking for manufacturing employment opportunities or healthcare opportunities, et cetera. So you can be very targeted and focused with your engagement when you're pushing out text messages. And you're going to see, and what we're going to cover today with some of Melanie's success stories, is increasing kind of the call to action, right? If you want people to attend your job fairs, attend the program information you're trying, or the programs that you're offering, and you start utilizing text messaging, you're going to see results pretty quickly. So that's kind of the main advantages with the text messaging, and we'll go into more detail on some of the platform use cases there. But next slide, pretty please, Anna. All right. So mobile web apps. Let me break down what a mobile web app is for everybody, okay? And if you want to see an example of one, and I believe it's Monmouth County's, it's actually Melanie's, if they scan that QR code, or if you all scan that QR code in the bottom right, you will see it and you'll receive a text message as well, I believe, here shortly. But on that mobile web app, you'll notice right away it has a really high level of accessibility in it. So, mobile web app, what is it? We all have what are referred to as native applications, right? So we all might have 40, 50, 60 different apps on our phone. Now, the main differences here is all of those apps that are already on your phone had to be hard downloaded, right? So you went into the app store, you had to download it, you had to find the right one, you have to keep it up to date, etc. And we really saw the writing on the wall with the data behind mobile web apps or behind native applications, excuse me, that it was getting much, much more difficult to get people to hard download things to their devices. And we kind of came up with the term download barrier, right? So it was just another step in the process that was getting difficult to get people to participate in, and people didn't love having things hard downloaded onto their devices. So we created these mobile web apps that, as you see, look, feel, and act very, very similar to a native app experience, but it's entirely web-based. So the accessibility is much, much higher and easier. Scan a QR code, or being that it's all web-based, obviously it's going to pair really well with the texting platform because couple clicks of a button, 1,000 text messages can go out. You can embed a little clickable link in it. The recipient can click that link and boom, up pops your mobile web app that might have your job board on it, training resources. They can upload documents in it. They can see the calendars. You can promote events, have registration forms, any kind of content you want to create and live inside that mobile web app, videos, polls, quizzes, etc., surveys. You can build them inside of here and make them very, very accessible. And of course, with all of our platforms, same with texting and mobile web apps, there is a very, very robust text message or a very, very robust dashboard that can display all the results, right? So that is kind of mobile web apps in a nutshell for you. So let's dive into Melanie's success story, shall we? Melanie, you want to give a brief little description of Monmouth County, maybe the job center, the folks you're serving, things like that?
Absolutely. So again, I'm Melanie Moffett. I'm the project director here at the Monmouth County One Stop. So when I came over in Monmouth County, I always joke that I'm new to New Jersey. My husband was in the military for 15 years, so we moved absolutely everywhere. So every time somebody says, "Tell me about New Jersey," I'm like, I just got here 6 months ago, right? So I will do my best to tell everybody about our county because I think it's really special. So we did look around a lot of counties here, and I actually live in Monmouth County, which makes it a little bit more special. So we are really known as the heart of the Jersey Shore here. We are a very robust area. I mean, we have about 643,000 people in Monmouth County. So we have populations from everywhere. And sometimes where Engaged by Cell really comes in powerful for us is where we are located isn't the best. So getting to us on public transportation, or for those that have a hard time, it really creates a barrier. So Engaged by Cell really allows us to have that connection with our clients. Even if we can't get them in the door right away, we're starting that baseline and we're creating that right then and there. So I will go over different ways that I used Engaged by Cell and continue to use Engaged by Cell, but during my startup was probably, as Max calls it, my success story. So I will share about that. But we service job seekers just as much as all of you do on this call, I assume. And we are constantly putting out our job alerts on there, open houses, but we'll go over all of that once we get on the next slide.
Love it. Perfect. How long have you been there now, Melanie?
I have been here for 6 months.
6 months. All right. Well,
I
you know a
have.
lot about it for 6 months already. That's pretty impressive. So with the kind of the initiative, right? So we all start somewhere. And it's sometimes we're all starting at various levels of implementing tools and where we are and utilizing technology. Where was Monmouth County when you came in? Where were you at with what tools were you using? How are you communicating? I know you already said it was challenging from a kind of physical location standpoint. What were some of the tools you were using before?
So when I came in and I asked what communication tools that we had, we did have constant contact, which I'm sure a lot of you have used before, but it's email based. So when it's coming out on the emails, your open rate is a lot lower. I don't know about you all, but when I get 146 emails a day, I'm really quick to slide through, delete on 90% of them, making sure that I don't need them.
Mhm.
So emails were kind of their main point, but the biggest thing, which I'm going to touch as well, for the job fair, for instance, when we get to that part, I'm going to give you guys a little tidbit now. When they held the job fair, the way that they were able to track how many clients they had here in Monmouth County was they gave out flyers and they would say, okay, we created 800 pamphlets. We came back with 500. That difference is how many people came or didn't come to the job fair. For me, that was a big waste of a population that we could have captured and we could have communicated with that we didn't. So I kind of hit the ground running and was trying to figure out before our very first big job fair how I was going to capture all these people effectively and I was going to be able to remain in contact with them. So the communication tools we were using here in Monmouth County before I came were very little. It was just mostly all phone calls or hoping that somebody would kind of pop in because we are we share our office with the unemployment office, so we do kick kind of those personal
Mhm.
referrals there. But as it came from outreach and communication side, it was a very slim.
So they were using pamphlets to count people. Is that
They
right?
were.
All
Yes.
right. All right. I
Yes.
wanted to make sure I caught that. All right. Yeah. Hey, I mean, it probably worked, but I think the trade-off with that is you weren't capturing, like you said,
It
right?
was a little
So,
skewed. Everybody would put, they were offered to sign in on a sheet. So they were
yeah,
offered to, put their first name, last name. They encouraged people to do it. People didn't necessarily do it. So it was just their turnout was pretty big. Generally, they were
right.
counting anywhere from 400 to 500 people. So that was
Wow.
just a big group of people that we were missing. And
Yeah,
I hate missed opportunities. So that's where
of
Engage
course.
by Cell comes in.
All right. Well, next slide, pretty please, Anna. All right. So I think you've kind of briefly touched on some of this, but I know there was bigger challenges than just outreach, right? So what were kind of the one, two, three big challenges that you were facing coming into it? Obviously, if handing out pamphlets was the way of counting, I'm sure there was some additional data or challenges you want to talk about.
Absolutely. So our biggest challenge was obviously engaging people and capturing those people that we were engaging with. So during the job fair, as I said, I took on the task that we were going to find a way to engage people. And that is when I came across Max, who wonderfully introduced me to all of these great things Engage by Cell could offer. So I told my team we were going to capture every person that walked in that job fair by scanning a QR code to check in, and then as they came in, they would have to put in their first name, their last name, phone number, email address, and whether they wanted to be contacted by services or whether they were already a client of ours. So when I pitched us to the team, we were lucky that on our team here, when Equus Workforce Solutions took over, we do have some incumbent staff, and then we had some new staff. I was one of the new staff that came in. So when we came in, everybody said, Melanie, that's never going to work. Our population does not work that way. Nobody has their phones. There's no way you're going to be able to capture this data. We don't think it's going to work. So what I did was I went and had flyers. I made flyers with all of our for check-ins. That everything had the QR code, and our staff was at both entrances. We had posted the QR check-in codes, and I captured over 550 people on the job fair. That included their phone numbers, their email addresses, whether they wanted to be contacted for services. As I stated, some people said, I'd rather not. I want to use the good old paper and pencil. That
And
number
that's
was
okay.
10. 10
10.
out of 560 something people was
Right.
10 people that said, no, I don't want to scan. I don't want to use the QR code. And everybody just said, oh, I got to scan right here. Okay, great. And we tell them it takes 5 minutes. In all reality, it took them 2. And they
Yeah.
were in the job fair. We handed them those pamphlets, but then we didn't have to count them to see how many
Right.
people came to
Right.
the job fair. So I'd say my biggest challenge was not only capturing people, but now I had all these 561 potential clients that I could reach out to.
Yeah.
And immediately after the job fair, if they said yes, we quickly sent a text that said, hey, thanks for visiting the job fair. Let's talk about how we can assist you. Would you like us to contact you for more information that ways we can help you from the one stop? And then again, people texted back. So that was the biggest challenge when I came in. I was, let's see, a month and a half in when we had our
I was
first
going to
job
say it
fair.
was the big launch. It was
It
the big
it
launch
was
was
the
the
big
job
launch,
fair.
which is the
Yeah,
big
we went
challenge.
all
So
in right away.
yeah, we were going big or going home. That was for sure.
And I want to make a point too. That's interesting with the QR codes that you only had 10 people that wanted to go back to the paper, let me write something down.
Hmm.
And I was on a call, I think it was just yesterday with some workforce development folks, and we were talking about that. And my grandma, she's 80, she would hate me saying this on this, but I think she's 82 right now, right? And she is extremely comfortable with QR codes, and we were kind of discussing it, and our main takeaway point being is that was like one of the very, very few good things that came out of COVID, we thought, because if you went to the restaurant, you went anywhere in the COVID, everything was QR code. So
Right.
I just want to make a point that, that's an awesome example of I think the fear and uncomfortableness with QR codes is pretty much behind us at this point, right?
Absolutely.
So,
I
I
would
mean,
agree with
out of
that.
500, there was 10 people. That's a pretty phenomenal result.
Yeah.
So big challenge. I think you wanted to tackle and you did very successfully with the big launch was transitioning away from some of those paper formats and incorporating a digital process that turns out is much more convenient for the end user, but more importantly, you can simultaneously, while providing an easier process for them, capture all that amazing data that you weren't before, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Anything else you want to add to that? All right. Anna said we're moving on. We're going on. All right.
Okay.
So are you using this for job seekers only? So I always want to ask this question because those people that are on the call, which a lot of you are going to be workforce development professionals, right? But a lot of us that aren't in the weeds with workforce development every day, it kind of has that stigma attached to it of the unemployment office, if you will, right? And I always want to make a point that there is a lot more to workforce development than just job seekers. So, whether Melanie, are you using it for youth, adult services? What are some of the other ways you're using it?
So we actually use it for, we are special in that we serve adult dislocated worker, TANF, so temporary assistance for needed families, and also youth. So I have all of them under my umbrella. So I get to touch a little bit of
You
everything with
put a
youth.
different hat on for each department?
Yeah,
You
I
go
mean, I just
sitting there
stack them all on
to...
top and just keep going. But am able, there's different aspects. This is the beauty of Engage by Cell, is there's certain ways I use it with adult and dislocated workers. Maybe I'm making sure that I'm sending out that we're having open houses or we're having job fairs. Then when you look at the youth, what is the biggest problem we have with the youth is that they don't really want to answer you unless it's on their cell phone. I
Mhm.
speak from experience. I have a 16-year-old niece. If I want to talk to her, I'm not going to call her. I'm going to text her because she's not going to pick up her phone. Same thing with the youth, which is the beauty of Engage by Cell, is on the text feature. Not only can we shoot some reminders to them of, hey, you've got a workshop coming up. Don't forget to attend. Or, hey, don't forget, we're going to be doing financial literacy today. But
Right.
also, there's a text feature where it's a chat on our side. If the counselors are
Mhm.
logging in, it looks as if, any of my people that are on here that remember like our AIM chat rooms is the way it
Yep.
kind of looks, right? It looks like a chat.
We're not
And
aging
then
ourselves by bringing up AIM, I
and then
hope.
if you are to put it on your phone, it's as if you're texting somebody is the way it comes in. Just the way you see it is the way they would answer their counselor, but it's just going to be a back and forth text message. To the youth, they love that. They
Yeah.
love that they can feel like they are just texting their counselor their updates or seeing what's
Mhm.
going on. So we use it to engage youth. We're also using it to touch adult and dislocated workers and any outreach events. Really, the possibilities are endless when it comes to Engage by Cell. It's just how creative you want to get to use it and how you think you can implement it best. Like I said, I touch everything in my under my umbrella, so I'm able to see how it works in every area.
I love that. I love that. And I think it's a powerful tool because, going back to even when I started my career, right? So I don't even know how long I've been working now. Let's say 15 years, 10, 15 years, something like that. In the beginning of my career, I was kind of coached and encouraged that, hey, texting is unprofessional. Don't text your customers. Don't text people. That's not right. And now it's transitioned into the primary means of communications for so many people, right? I mean, especially youth demographics, of course. Like you mentioned, that 16-year-old teenager, good luck sending them
Hmm.
an email, like that is not their methodology. But I think also kind of the conclusion with it is though that most of my clients and customers and people that I provide customer service to, oftentimes they're saying, "Hey, just like you said, Melanie, you get 150 emails a day and you need to prioritize. Text me. It's
Hmm.
easiest. It's easiest for me. I'll get to it right away, right?" So I just want everybody to be really, really comfortable with the idea that that kind of negative association with texting is no longer existent, right? We need to start using it because so many people rely on it and prefer it, right?
Which makes it so effective because that's everybody's
Exactly.
main need of communication half the time.
Exactly.
Everybody knows if Melanie doesn't answer her phone, just shoot her a text because
Just
that's
like
the way I'm going to
Melanie
see
and
it.
And you're one of your colleagues, Mike Dunn, the regional director. I can call Mike 100 times and I have a great relationship with Mike, but I might not catch him one out of 100 times if I call him, but I text him, Mike will text me back right away in 30
Right
seconds.
away.
Hey,
That's
are
why
you all
I'll send
right?
them a
What's going
text
on,
that says,
buddy?
"Hey, check your email," right? I mean, it's the same thing with our what we're doing here, but it's right at their fingertips and it makes it just so much more effective that way.
Of course, of course. All right. Anything else you want to add, Melanie, before we move
Nope,
on?
that's
Okay.
it.
And next slide, pretty please. All right. So the first question we always get asked, right? In when you're undertaking, especially in a situation where you haven't been utilizing tech, right? And texting isn't a new technology, but it is for a lot of people from more of a software perspective. We all text all day, but having the capability to send out 1,000 text messages, or I have to build a mobile web app, like what does that look like? So there's a lot of onboarding and implementation questions that always come up, right? But what in your experience, how difficult were these tools to manage? What was kind of the onboarding process like? What is some ongoing strategy, which we'll cover on a couple more slides after this? But what did that look like for you, Melanie?
So I will joke that I am probably the most computer illiterate person when it comes to trying. I'll run to my accountant all the time, and be like, "Can you fix my Excel spreadsheet?" Because I'm ready to throw my computer because I can't figure it out. I when I looked at Engage by Cell, I was a little nervous at first because I'm not very IT savvy or am I good with those kind of things. But when you get Engaged by Cell, you get a wonderful team member that helps you build out your web browser, which is fantastic. They help you manage it and you kind of tell them what you want it to look like, what you don't want to look like. For instance, you could look at Monmouth counties and say, I love that. I don't like that bubble. I want to change that bubble. Ooh, let's make this one work this way. It's just so creative in the way you do it, and they're there to help you every step of the way. And I say this because I'm sure Max loves when I sent him an SOS text because I forgot to take notes during my training, which was all encompassing and absolutely wonderful because you can have a training. I not only did a training, but I also have multiple members of my staff that are trained, and actually some that are going through training on Friday next week because I've had some new staff come on that need to get trained as well.
Yep.
So it is fantastic that they give you a fully encompassed training that you're able to see how to send a text. And it took me all of about 10 minutes to learn how to use the platform. And I now can go on and I can drop a text in all of about 5 minutes. I click the link that a group of people I'm sending it to. As Max stated kind of earlier in the call, you can upload some list of people that you want. You can label them. I have one that's labeled job seekers. I have one that's labeled job fair candidates. I have every different, I think I have like 10 different lists in mine.
Yeah.
And
And that's
when
what we encourage, right?
and it's great because when I uploaded them, I was like, this is probably going to be a nightmare. And it wasn't. It's a really simple, even I can figure out the Excel spreadsheet that I put up. But it's first name, last name, phone number, bam, upload it. I'm good to go. And I can get everything out in a 10-minute period.
I think
I spend
you
more
are
time
so
finding
well
a,
versed, you could do
yeah,
the tuning at this point, Melanie. Listening to
absolutely.
you talk,
Super
I'm
user
very
friendly.
proud right now, Melanie.
Super duper user friendly. I cannot say that enough. It's just getting in there and learning. Once I did my training, I was good to go. And it was great that I had any questions along the way if I wasn't paying attention, because we all know that sometimes we're pulled away in the middle. I joke that I scheduled my 2 hour training and I double booked myself and I still had another training to go to. So I only got an hour of my 2 hour training and was still able to figure absolutely everything out, and then just reached out with follow-up questions. So super
Fantastic.
easy peasy. Anybody can do it. And I I promise it is not, it sounds a little bit encompassing, but it's really not. Once you get the hang of it, it makes all of your time that you spent sending those emails and the constant contact and all of that is nothing compared to that.
That's what I always wanted to bring up too, and you did it for me, is bringing back kind of what there is going to be a learning curve, but it could be very simple, like Melanie said, an hour or something like that to get really comfortable in it, right? But point being is the amount of time and the amount of hours spent making those phone calls and drafting those emails and sending out those emails and following up and et cetera, all those things the ROI on time saved, right, is such a net positive, and that's why it's so successful all the time. And I did see a question in this chat window here that is pretty relevant. So, could Melanie explain scanning a QR code for a customer check-in at the workforce center or for job seekers at the job fair? What does the QR code have? What does it say? Melanie, if you want to give your example, and I can chip
Absolutely.
in if you want.
Um, I don't know how familiar you guys are with Canva. I have Canva that I use here. It's a super great platform to be able to make flyers on. Whenever I had
Let me
engaged
stop
myself,
you right there, Melanie. You love Canva, right?
yeah.
All right. Well, this is a little peek behind the curtain to see how the sausage is made, but I want to say that Engage by Cell, we are this close to our Canva integration being
Oh,
completed, so you'll be able to build things right
oh, that's
inside of it.
perfect. Perfect.
So.
So I use Canva, but you can use anything, right? You can use Word, you can use Google Docs, you can use Adobe, whatever you use to make your flyers. I just use Canva because again, I'm totally illiterate and it makes everything super easy and color matches what I need. So if you don't use it, it's a great tool. When I signed up for Engage by Cell, Max sent me all of my QR codes for everything. I have certain ones for CASAS testing. I have one for job fair check-in. I have all different ones. I just create a really generic flyer that says check in here and it has a cute little arrow that points to the QR code and that's it. I put them in some nice little placards and set them up around the job fair when they checked in. I also have them different flyers, obviously, that aren't for job fair, but sign up flyers that are all in the front. We also have them in our orientation rooms and they're also included in the orientation packet. Oh, perfect. Here's some of them right here that we use.
Yep.
So I also have them on the back of all of our business cards because I think it's the best way to get engagement quickly. And when you hand all of our counselors have business cards, all of our counselors hand their business cards after they get done doing an intake. I'm constantly handing out my business cards. Our business services person is handing out her business cards. So it's just great. It's right there at your fingertips. If you are able to read your business cards, I highly encourage it because it's been super successful for us. So my personal one is right there that you can see in the corner. On this
Yeah.
bottom one where it says customer plan, where it says scan here for practice tests, we use CASAS tests before they can go into training. If they scan that link, they're able to do all the CASAS practice tests right from there. So they go home with that sheet after they finish orientation. And then my other two are just flyers that we give out during outreach events. We also had tabled at the job fair. So there really are tabling flyers, but we also just have them to hand out wherever we are. So I will stick a QR code on just about anything because it's just so easy that most of the time people don't want to read. So they're just going to click the QR code anyway. They'll go, oh, can I just scan that? And yeah, go ahead. And then they'll go, okay, great. And they'll leave it open on their phone as you all scan the web browser and saw. So I leave mine open all the time. Then I'm able just to pop it open. Maybe it's old school me that has a gajillion browsers open, but people love it. They love the QR code. They love that it's right there. And I'd say the business card is the most successful place as well, because you can just flip it right over and they're ready to scan it.
All right. And I think it's important, like you said, to increase the exposure on those QR codes everywhere, right? So creating those call to actions and putting them, like Melanie has done a fantastic job, anywhere and everywhere you can, right? So we got my program director has been alerted to some of the challenges and scams with QR codes. So we are looking at perhaps not using them for security reasons. What have you heard about QR codes, Max and team? Good question. So QR codes are a great tool. I've heard some of the scams, and obviously someone can go up with a marker and draw on it, or they could slap another QR code, whatever the instance may be, right? We don't live in a perfect world, and there are people who don't behave wonderfully all the time, right? So, being that that is the case, right? So the QR code can also be countered with, or not countered, supplemented with a call to action, right? So in that instance, you will also have a texting call to action. Like we all saw earlier, we scanned that QR code and it populated the text for us to just hit send with. You can also have the call to action that isn't QR code driven, right? So Trina, you could have text Willamette to XYZ phone number rather than utilizing the QR code, because when they text that and that call to action, they'll automatically receive that text message back. And in that text, you could give the link to the mobile web app that they can click on, and they're right in there. And also, as Anna put in there, the QR codes are created by our platform. So they're always going to be, you're the originator of it, right? So it's not some third party source that's going to be creating these. Um, and I wanted to move to the next slide, and Anna is going to send out a picture message to everybody who opted in earlier. And the reason why I want to send it out because it's actually before the job fair. I believe this was the very first text message that was sent out through your platform when you signed up. And the reason why it was so important, and everybody who didn't get the chance, and maybe you can see it, maybe you can't, it is a wonderful career opportunity for the local SPCA that was hiring, and it has this picture of this puppy. And how could you not want to work at the local SPCA if that's the messaging you receive? And what made this so insanely successful, and it really kind of we started incorporating it into our kind of onboarding processes and training is when Melanie and her team first utilized our platform, and that was the first message that went out, they just uploaded a list into the system, right? Because they had already been working with a lot of folks. So they uploaded that into the system and they sent that out as the first text. And these people are receiving communications via text for the first time from the Monmouth County Center. And they only experienced a 2% opt-out rate out of the hundreds of people that were received that message. And I don't think anybody at Engage by Sell had ever seen an unsolicited list receive a text message and the opt-out was only 2%. So that being said, Melanie is an expert in ongoing communication and strategy.
Well, I don't know if I would go that far, but I think one of the most important things I love to point out to anybody on Engage by Sell, I was actually on a work call with our team, our Equus team, and sharing on what I think makes Engage by Sell so special. I don't know how many of you guys are on a website and it's like sign up here and text to get our 15% discount code. And by the time you put in your cell phone number and they start sending you discount codes, you've probably already gotten 5 text messages in a 10-minute period. Hey, you got something waiting in your cart, and you're already opting out because absolutely not. I don't need any more text messages on my phone. What makes Engage by Sell so special is you control how much you are messaging your clients. And I can't speak to enough volumes of that because I know myself how much I don't want to be bombarded. I want a reminder because I am forgetful. I am a mom of 2 young children and I'm the project director and of all the moving parts in sports. And I love a reminder text. I don't want to be spammed 600 times. So that is really where I believe you will have your most success in your ongoing communication. I will give a perfect example. When I had the job fair, I did not tell them every day the job fair was coming because eventually I'm going to opt out because I don't need you to remind me something that's coming up in a week and a half.
Right.
I gave them one the first time as in you can pre-register, you can sign up. Then we sent one on a Monday. Hey, just a reminder, job fair's upcoming. I didn't message them again until 2 days before, the day before the job fair, as, hey, just a reminder, job fair's tomorrow. We look forward to seeing you there. I think it's very strategic about how you choose to hit your clients. And it doesn't come off as a spammy text because you're the one controlling how much it goes out. And the best thing is you can set it and forget it. Okay. You can drop that text in there and I can say, I want it to go out. I know my event is on Friday. I want it to go out on the Friday before and the Wednesday. And you can pick the day and the time, the group it's going to, and you don't have to worry about it. It's hands off because you already set it up. So that 10 minutes of your time takes care of 3 texts that are going to go out over the next week. So I really think it's important that you know you are in control. It's not some robot or AI that's controlling when your texts are going out or how much your customers are going to be text. That's all you. So you
Yeah.
get to control the beauty of it. And that's where you'll have your most success.
I think you touched a good point there that I want to reiterate a little bit is the humanistic element of it, right? So there are a ton of different platforms out there that are chatbots essentially, right? And they do play a role in some things, right? I mean, there's a time and place for every tool out there, but when we're in workforce development and we're working with people, and they are people, and we're trying to get them employed. We're trying to provide them with the services they need desperately, right? And in maintaining that degree of control, like you said, Melanie, and speaking and engaging with them like they're humans, because we are humans communicating with them, is very, very impactful and super important, right? So maintaining that humanistic element is always, always critical. And I think that is a great example of what makes Engage by Cell stand above some of those other options that are out there. Yeah. All right, next slide, Anna. I know we're going to kind of go a little bit quick here and be respectful of Melanie's time and everybody else's, but real quickly, I know you're still kind of onboarding Engage by Sales platforms into your procedures and into your day-to-day processes. Is there any big things? I know one of them is text chat. You want to start incorporating the one-on-one tool. That's what we have some training scheduled with your team about here coming up. Are there any quick initiatives you'd like to share that you hope to start utilizing here in the future?
So we're really gonna we're gonna ramp up our text chat. Not all of my
Okay.
counselors use it. Some are open to it, some are not. So we're gonna do a
Mhm.
training just so everybody can be more familiar with it because all of my
Yeah.
counselors, I plan on changing their QR codes on their business cards and they're
Yep.
gonna have their text to chat QR code on
Mhm.
there for so that they're able to quickly reach their clientele's quickly able to reach
Yeah.
them.
Yep.
But that's my big tool that I'm really am hoping to do. We're going to be doing a lot of outreach events coming soon. So I'm just really excited to get engaged by Sell out there more so that we can capture more people and we can do it just really quickly and really easily and just be able to take that data and use it for future outreach events or job placements or things like that. So we're really
Yeah.
just building on what we have to make it even better than it already is.
I love it. And the next slide, real quick, just so I can run through this. So, you've heard Melly and I age ourselves with AIM and all those instant messenger platforms. And this is when Melanie's talking about ramping up that text chat usage with their case managers and having that capability to have the long format conversational communications, right? This is what the dashboard looks like, just so everybody can see it and kind of understand what we're discussing here and visualize the capabilities, but it enables you to jump in between conversations. I think I saw one question in the window earlier about how long do we retain this data and things of a question like that. So we understand that obviously all of these transcripts are super important, right? And maintaining all the record keeping component of it. Hey, if I'm a case manager and I had a chat with Melanie about getting her employed, 30 days ago and Melanie calls me and says, blah, 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 you didn't say that, blah, blah, blah. Those records are going to be there, right? So we save them just based upon whatever parameters you want. Obviously, automatically, the default is indefinitely, but everybody has different standards for record keeping. If it's 1 month, 30 days, 90 days, 3 years, whatever it might be, our system will house and protect that information for everybody. The final slide we got here, and I just wanted to highlight it. Anna, if you wouldn't mind going to the next one for me. These are just some of the metrics from Monmouth County's results with utilizing our platforms, and just wanted to show, the magnitude here of the results. I mean, she's had multiple job fairs. She's enlisted in it. You'll see some of the click rates there, the uppage, a little pretty bar graph showing the engagement consistently climbing with the link clicks and the engagement, because that's really what matters, right? We can all push out text messages, but we want to know that they're getting read and they're getting engaged with. And that's why it's so important and powerful to include that little clickable link, because you're trying to get them to do something, right? You're trying to get them to digest more information or sign up for an event or whatever that might be. But I mean, as you can see, Melanie's averaging some pretty wild numbers there as far as link clicks go, with audience sizes, 100 plus different QR code scans for the CASAS practice testing, 5,000 mobile web app views since launch, which is crazy impressive. And the opt-out rate is only at 10%, right? So if you're getting a 90+% engagement rate already with the texting and there's only a 10% opt-out, do that math, let's call it 80 to 90%. You're guaranteeing your deliveries are going to happen, and you're guaranteeing that your audience is receiving your messaging and they're going to engage with it, right? That being said, Melanie, do you have any last things you want to add here, and then we'll open it up to a quick Q&A for everybody.
I would say that if you are on the fence about Engage Buy Sell, I would be happy to answer any questions you guys have. So anything that's kind of keeping you on the fence or you're not really sure about, please don't hesitate to ask and this question and answer. But just know that it's changed our outreach and being able to capture people and being able to also show data for what we're doing too, which is huge. If you are a privatized organization and you are working, your funder is a board, right? You're able to take this data and show them of things that you're doing and customers you're reaching. Or on the verse side, if you're on the board yourself, you're also able to present it and say, hey, look at all these people we reached and we're continuing to reach every month. So I think it's just great for so many reasons. And I open the floor to whatever questions you may have for me or for Max.
What is the cost? So the cost, good question, Joshua. I'll definitely make sure someone from our team reaches out and goes into pricing with you. It's digestible, but there are variables that we kind of have to understand before we can provide pricing. That's the only reason why. Good question, though. Um, any other questions? Please feel free to throw them in the chat window, but we did go over a little bit because I'm a chatterbox. So thank you very, very much to everybody who attended. And thank you, Melanie, your team, you and your team are rock stars. I'm super excited to see how you keep envisioning and innovating with Engage by Sales platforms and it's going to be exciting. It's only starting. That's why I had to get you on a webinar as quickly as possible because you're showing the proof is in the pudding, right?
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me. And as I stated, anybody, if you guys have any questions, Max can always forward them to me if they come to him after or somebody in the team. If it's
Of
something
course.
specific that I've done, I am open to help. My success, I'm happy to share my things I implement as well. So don't hesitate to reach out.
Awesome. Thank you very, very much, everybody. And thank you very, very, very much, Melanie. I hope everybody has a great rest of your day and a happy Friday tomorrow. And let's all avoid those ice storms for a little bit longer. But on that note, we'll wrap it up for today. And just FYI, this was recorded and it will be sent out to everybody who attended. So don't feel like you missed out if you joined late. We'll get you taken care of. But thank you again, everybody, and have a great day.